Trembling, the king went to the room over the gate, weeping and crying, "Oh, my son, Absalom, my son, Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son." Joab was told, "The king is weeping, mourning for Absalom." Thus, the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people, for the people heard it said that the day that the king was grieving for his son, so that the people entered the city furtively that day, the way that people who were ashamed creep away from fleeing a battlefield. Meanwhile, the king covered his face and cried aloud, "Oh, my son, Absalom! Oh, Absalom, my son, my son!" Joab went inside to the king and said, "Today you made all your servants feel ashamed. They saved your life today, the lives of your sons and daughters, wives and concubines. But you love those who hate you and hate those who love you. Today you said that princes and servants mean nothing to you. For I can see today that it would have pleased you more if Absalom had lived today and we had all died. Now get up, go out and speak heart to heart with your servants. For I swear by Adonai that if you don't go out, no one man will stay here with you tonight. That will be worse for you than all the misfortunes you have suffered from your youth until now." So the king got up and sat at the city gateway, and when all the people were told, "Now the king is sitting in the gate," they came before the king. Meanwhile, Israel had fled, each man to his tent. And throughout all the tribes of Israel there was dissension among the people. They are saying, "The king delivered us from the power of our enemies and saved us from the power of the Plishtim. But now he has fled the land to escape Absalom. However, Absalom, whom we anointed to rule us, is dead in battle. So now, why doesn't anyone suggest bringing the king back?" King David sent this message to Zadok and Abiathar the Kohanim. "Ask the leaders of Yehuda, why are you the last to bring the king back to his palace? The king has already heard that all Israel wants to return to his palace. You are my kinsman, my flesh and my bone. So why are you the last to bring back the king? Also tell Amasa, you are my flesh and bone. May God bring terrible curses on me and worse ones yet, if from now on you are not permanent commander of my army instead of Joab." Thus he turned the hearts of all the men of Yehuda around as if they were one man, so that they sent a message to the king, "Come back, you and all your servants." The king started back and arrived at the Yarden, while Yehuda came to Gilgal in order to meet the king and bring the king over Yarden. Shimei, the son of Gera, the Benjamini, from Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Yehuda to meet King David. There were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, also Ziphah, the servant of the house of Shaul, and his 15 sons and 20 servants, and they rushed into the Yarden ahead of the king to ferry the king's household across to do whatever else the king wanted done. Shimei, the son of Gera, fell before the king, and when he was ready to cross the Yarden, and said to the king, "May my lord not hold me guilty of a crime. Don't remember the wrong your servant did on the day my lord the king of Jerusalem. May the king not take it to heart. For your king knows that I have sinned. Therefore, look, I am the first one of all the house of Joseph to come today and go down to meet the Lord my king." Abishai, the son of Zerah, answered, "Shouldn't Shimei be put to death for this? After all, he cursed Adonai, anointed ruler." But David said, "What do I have in common with you, sons of Zeruiah? Why have you become my adversaries today? Should anyone in Israel be put to death today? Don't I know that today I am king over Israel?" Then the king said to Shimei, "You will not be put to death," and the king swore to him. Mephibosheth, the son of Shaul, came down to meet the king. He hadn't cared for his legs, trimmed his beard, or washed his clothes, for the day the king had left and the day he came home in peace. When he came to Jerusalem to meet the king had come home in peace. When he came to Jerusalem to meet the king said to him, "Why didn't you go with me, Mephibosheth?" He answered, "My lord the king, my servant deceived me. I, your servant, had said, I will settle a donkey for myself to ride and go on with the king, since your servant is lame. But he slandered me, your servant, to my lord, the king. However, my lord the king is like an angel of God, so do whatever seems right to you. For all my father's household deserves death at the hand of my lord the king. Nevertheless, you placed your servant with those who eat at your own table. I deserve nothing more, so why should I come crying any more to the king? The king said to him, Why speak any more about these matters of yours? I say, you and Ziphah divide the land. Mephibosheth said to the king, Indeed, let him take it all. For me it's enough that my lord the king has come home in peace. Barzillai and Gilead had come down from Roglim and passed on to the Jordan with the king and bring him across the Jordan. Barzillai was a very old man, 80 years old. He had provided for the king's needs when he was staying in Mechanaim, for he was a wealthy man. The king said to Barzillai, Come on across for me, and I will provide your needs with me in Jerusalem. Barzillai said to the king, How much longer can I live, that I should go up with the king in Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Can I tell good from bad? Can your servant even taste what he eats or drinks? Can I hear the voice of men and women singing anymore? Why should your servant bring my lord the king? Your servant only wants to cross the Jordan with the king. Why should the king reward this so generously? Please, let your servant go back and die in my own city, near the grave of my father and mother. But here is your servant Kahinaham. Let him cross with my lord the king and do for him whatever seems good to you. The king answered, Kahinaham will cross with me, and I will do for him whatever seems good to you. Whatever you ask of me, I will do for you. So all the people crossed the Jordan. The king crossed too. The king kissed Barzillai and blessed him. Then he returned to his home. The king crossed over to Gilgal, and the Kilcam crossed with him. All the people of Yehudah brought the king across, and did half the people of Israel. Now all the men of Israel came to the king and said to him, Why have your kinsmen, the men of Yehudah, stolen you away and brought the king and his household across the Jordan, all David's men with him? All the men of Yehudah answered the men of Israel, Because the king is our close relative. Why are you angry about this? Have we eaten anything of the king's expense? Has any gift been given to us? The men of Israel answered the men of Yehudah, We have 10 shares of the king. Also we have more right in David than you. So why do you despise us? Weren't we the first to suggest bringing our king back? But the men of Yehudah spoke more vehemently than the men of Israel. There happened to be there the scoundrel whose name was Sheva, the son of Bichri, Benjamin. He sounded the shofar and said, We have no share in David, no inheritance in the son of Yeshini. So Israel, every man to his tent. All the men of Israel left of following David and went off to Sheva, the son of Berichi. But the men of Yehudah stuck with their king from the Jordan to Jerusalem. When David arrived in the palace of Jerusalem, the king took the 10 women who were his concubines, whom had left care in the palace, and put them under guard. He provided their needs. He never slept with them again. They were kept in confinement till the day of their death, living like widows with their husbands still alive. The king said to Amasa, Summon the men of Yehudah to come with me for 3 days, and you be here too. Amasa went to summon the men of Yehudah, but took longer than the time had been given. David said to Avishai, Sheva, the son of Berichi, is going to do us more harm than Absalom. Take your Lord's servants and pursue him, so that he won't take fortified cities and escape us. With him went Yoav's men, and Kriti the Pleti, and all the experienced soldiers. They left Jerusalem in pursuit of Sheva, the son of Berichi. On arrival at the big rock of Givon, Amasa came to meet him. Yoav was wearing his battle clothes, over which was girded a belt with a sheathed sword. But as he came forward, it fell out. Yoav said to Amasa, It is going well with you, my brother. Is it going well with you, my brother? Then his right hand Yoav took Amasa by the beard to kiss him. Amasa took no notice of the sword in Yoav's hand, so Yoav stabbed him in the groin. his insides poured out on the ground, and he died being stabbed a second time. He died without being stabbed a second time. Joab and Avishi, his brother, continued in pursuit to Sheva, the son of Berchi. And one of Joab's young men standing by Joab said, "Whoever is on Joab's side, whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." Amasa laying wallowing in his blood in the middle of the road, so that all the troops came up. They all halted there. When the man saw that all the people were standing still, he dragged Amasa off the road into the field, and they threw a cloak over him. Once he had been removed from the road, all the troops went after Joab to pursue Sheva, the son of Bechri. Sheva sent through all the tribes of Israel, Abel and Bet-Mahachah. To all the Barim they assembled and followed him. Joab's troops came and put him under siege in Avel and Beret-Mahachah. They put up a ramp in the moat against the city wall, and all the people of Joab battered the wall in order to bring it down. Then a wise man in the city shouted, "Listen, listen, please tell Joab, come over here so that I can speak with him." He approached her, and the woman asked, "Are you Joab?" He answered, "I am." She said to him, "Listen to what your servant has to say." He answered, "I'm listening." Then she said, "In the old days, when they used to say they will ask advice at Avel, and then they would end the discussion. We are among those in Israel who are peaceful and faithful. Why are you destroying a city and a mother in Israel? Why swallow up an inheritance of Adonai?" Joab answered, heaven forbid, that I should swallow up or destroy anything. That's not how it is. Rather, a man from the hills of Ephraim, Sheva, the son of Rechi, has raised his hands against the king, against David. Just turn him over to me. I will leave the city. The woman said to Joab, "All right, his head will be thrown to you over the wall." Then the woman went to all the people with her wise plan. They cut off the head of Sheva, the son of Bechri, and threw it over to Joab. So he sounded the shofar, and they left the city, sending each man to his tent, while Joab returned to the king of Jerusalem. Once again, Joab, the commander of over the whole army of Israel, while Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the Crete and the Pleti. Adoram was in charge of the forced labor. Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahulad, was secretary of state. Sheva was recorder. Zadok and Avitar were Kohanim, and Ira and Yari was David's Kohen. In David's time, there was a famine that lasted 3 years, and David consulted Adonai. Adonai said, "It is because of Shaul and his bloodstained house, because he put to death the people of Givon." King summoned the Givonim, said to them, "These Givonim were not part of the people of Israel, but for the remnant of the Emori, and the people of Israel had shown to them. But Shaul, in his zeal for the people of Israel and Yehuda, had sought to exterminate them. David said to the Givonim, 'What should I do for you? With what should I make atonement, so that you will be able to bless Adonai's heritage?' The Givonim said to him, 'Our dispute with Shaul can't be resolved with silver and gold, and we don't have any right to put anyone else in Israel to death.' He said, 'So what do you say that I should do for you?' They answered the king, 'The man who ruined us, who schemed against us, so that we'd cease to exist anywhere in Israel's territory. Have 7 of his male descendants handed over to us, and we will put him to death by hanging before Adonai in Givah of Shaul, whom Adonai chose.' The king said, 'I will hand them over.' But the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jehonatan, the son of Shaul, because of the oath before Adonai, and David the Jehonatan, son of Shaul. The king took the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, whom bore to Shaul Amaroni, Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Shaul, whom she bore to Adriel, the son of Barzillai, the Machaliti, and handed them over to Givonim, who hanged them on the hill before Adonai. All 7 died. They were put to death during the first day of the harvest season, at the beginning of the barley harvest. Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth, spread it out toward the cliff for herself, and stayed there from the beginning of the harvest until water poured out under the bodies before the sky, not letting the birds land on them during the day, of the wild animals at night. David was told that Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, the concubine of Shaul, had done. So David went and took the bones of Shaul and the bones of Jonathan, his son, to the men Yavish and Gilead, who stole them from the open square in Beth Shan, where the Plishtim had hanged them in the time the Plishtim had killed Shaul at Gilboa. And he brought them up from the bones of Shaul and the bones of Jonathan his son. They also gathered the bones of those who had been hanged. Then they buried the bones of Shaul and Jonathan his son in territory of Benjamin and Zillah, in the tomb of Kish his father. They did everything the king ordered. Only after that was God prevailed to show mercy to the land. Once again the Plishtim made war over Israel. David went down to his servants and fought against the Plishtim, but David began to get tired. Yoshi Benov, one of the sons of the giant, said that he would kill David. His spear weighed 7 pounds, and he was wearing new armor. But Avishi, the son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue by striking the Plishtim and killing him. Then David's men swore to him, "You must no longer go with us into battle, in order not to quench the lamp of Israel." A while after there was war again, war with the Plishtim at Gov. Sibkah, the Hushiti, killed Saph, one of the sons of the giant. There was more war with the Plishtim at Gov, and Elikatan, the son of Yari, Origim, and Beth Lechemi, killed Goliath, the Gedi, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's beam. There again was war at Gat, where there was a belligerent man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all, and he too was the son of a giant. When he mocked Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shema, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were the sons of the giant in Gat. They fell in the hands of David, his servants.